Hey Jessica, it's great to see you.
Great to see you too, Whitney.
Where are you located?
I am in California, so
Okay,
I
I
am getting
got
some, yeah, no snow or anything for me. No complaints on the weather here.
I have very mixed emotions about snow days. Like it's been wonderful. It does not snow here in Tennessee, and then we got over a foot, and it's like sub-zero temperatures. But we've been having a blast. It's been great sledding, and it's really fun. But it's also like I'm stuck home with the kids. I don't have a treadmill. It's ice all around, so there's no running happening.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely adds a layer of complication to figuring out your workout schedule,
Yes,
especially with
yes.
kids.
I'm actually like very, very grateful to just be returning from being out because I'm not stressing about hitting workouts or getting in miles or anything. It's just like movement. And right now I have an elliptical, so I'm doing that, but my movement has
Nice.
just been going up and down a giant hill for like 6 hours at a time. I'm like, that should be enough, right?
Yeah.
That counts for something. So yeah, so we're in California.
I'm in Southern California, so Orange County area.
Oh, nice. And that's
Yeah.
is that where you grew up?
I did, yeah. I grew up in Orange County and then I went to school just 30 minutes away at Long Beach, and I lived up there for about 18 years, and that's where I took up running. And now I'm back in Orange County area, so I haven't really lived anywhere else.
Well, I mean, why would you?
I
Like,
know
it's
it's
nice, right?
yeah, I can't imagine at this stage of my life moving somewhere where you have to shovel your driveway or anything like that, because that's a whole new thing for me.
I know. I lived up north growing up, and now that we're in the south, I'm such a wimp with cold weather. I'm like, how do people deal with this? Especially with young, like young kids, and you have to bundle it. I mean, everything's just a hassle. So I am very grateful to be living in the south. We are
Yeah.
planning a trip to California. My daughter really wants to go to LA for spring break, but I think we're going to do Northern California and then come back and do Southern California on another trip. But she's like super excited and all about your state and wants to see all of it.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's so much to see here, so that'll be a great trip.
Yes, yes, we have to. We only have a few days to travel, so I'm like, we can't do the whole state as much as it would be so cool to do the driving up the coast. But anyways, I would love to know like a quick little backgrounder on you and Team Sugar because you have a huge coaching business.
I do, yes. I started my coaching business about 7 years ago, and we are now 8 female coaches. We have about 200 athletes on our team, and we're all over the world. We have athletes in different countries, mostly based in the US, though. And it's been great, especially when I've been injured. I have really like loved coaching that much more because it really allows me to be fully invested in other people's goals, right? And not be so sad that I can't chase my own. So it's been a really good source for me for the last couple of years that I've been kind of off and on with running. But yeah, I've grown it, and I love coaching and supporting, especially my other female coaches. So it's been a great thing for me.
Yeah, that is exactly how I feel with me being out on and off for the past 4 years is being able to like live kind of vicariously through my
Yes.
other runner through the people that I coach and then also like imparting the lessons that I've learned and all the mistakes that I've made where it's nice to like help them not run into those same types of barriers and mistakes and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, we can pass on our wisdom and help a younger generation of runners not
Yes.
not do what we've done.
Yeah.
And so so you started running just because like you lived in a beautiful place or
Well, I actually grew up playing soccer, so I played soccer for about 20 years and played a little bit in college too, and then was kind of, a little lost. When you're in a team sport, you're kind of like, well, what do I do now?
Mhm.
And so running became something. I just went to the gym, ran a couple miles on the treadmill a few times a week, and then I had a friend who was like, I just did a half marathon. Do you want to sign up for another one with me? And I thought, okay, that sounds interesting. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into and had never done a 5K or a 10K, just straight up, but straight to the half marathon. And I had so much fun. And then I just started running consistently for probably about 7 or 8 years before I decided to do a marathon. I always thought they were very overwhelming and a lot of training
Not
and
wrong.
yes. But then of course, as you know, like once you do a marathon, you're like, wow, I get why people want to do this
Mhm.
now. So I started doing that and then got really, really invested in the marathon for about 5 years before I had my son and really love that's probably my favorite distance. So yeah, that's how
It's
I got into
great
it.
distance. I was just writing to a friend about how I'm not so sure about the marathon anymore. Like I can't I've been injured so many times trying to go for like the time that I want that I'm like I don't know if I still really want it or if I'm just hanging on because I have yet to achieve the goal. It is like a puzzle that is so hard to solve, but I will probably once I'm out of the woods, I'm like it'll be back on the
Yeah.
for sure, because it's that like unrequited love, you know.
Yeah, and you're really trying to, I mean, the puzzle of the marathon is just so intriguing, and that's why I think a lot of people keep coming back to it all the time.
Yeah,
That's
because
what
you
it is
like
for me.
can taste the success. You're like, if I just change this one thing, like feel better, change my training a little bit this way, you're like, I can get there. Like you could taste it, like it's so close, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's so far. So I have to ask, so if you played soccer for 20 years and you just had major knee surgery, I have to think that the soccer has a lot to do with the injury you're dealing with now.
Yeah. And so just a little background on what I went through. I had
Okay.
plica syndrome, which was the source of my knee pain, which I would certainly say now knowing a lot more about it, because I'd never heard of it before my MRI came back and they told me what it was. But um, I would say that that's probably what a lot of people are experiencing when they have runner's knee. If it's not IT band pain, which is on the outside of your knee, it's probably the plica, which is more on the inside of your knee.
Okay.
And it's essentially like a membrane that protects your kneecap and your joint. And it can get essentially irritated, right, due to strength or imbalances in your body, which I certainly had postpartum and had probably still not quite figured out. And but running or any sort of high impact sport would have caused that to come out if I had imbalances in my body. So soccer could have done that. But it
See.
can come out at any time in your life. The meniscus tear, I had no symptoms from it. So it wasn't causing me pain or anything. It was just kind of something he was like, well, we're going to go in there. We should
Fix it.
fix it. And he's like,
You'll be better than ever.
yes, totally. My knee will be great. But he was like, you could have had that for years and had no idea. And
Yeah.
I've learned a lot about your knees since having this injury, and the most common way that people tear their meniscus is getting in and out of a car. So it's very unlikely that what happened to me was caused by running. And yeah, so
Yeah, it's the whole like you need to shift like your upper torso first and then your legs
and then your legs, yeah,
yeah. I
no
learned that
turning.
when I hurt my low back when my kids were really little. You're like nursing in weird places, you're hunched over all the time and like sitting on the floor playing with them. And I remember I hurt my low back and that's the chiropractor was like, you can't be like twisting your body anymore like that. Like you need to be almost moving like a robot.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah. You learn these things and like, man, I feel old now that I have to start thinking about this
I
stuff.
know.
Um, okay, so you had your surgery how long ago? Like 6 weeks ago?
I am almost 8 weeks post-op on Monday,
Oh,
so it's a
good.
Thursday. So yeah, yeah.
Okay. So what does the timeline look for you? That
So
I guess that's like a tricky question though, because
I know.
I'm like you don't want to be stuck to like timelines. You got to throw them out the window, or else you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. But like, I
Yeah.
guess how is it supposed to look?
So typically, 6 weeks post surgery for your meniscus, you're on crutches. Depending on your doctors, whether they're conservative or not, you can start walking during that time. Mine was pretty conservative. So 6 weeks completely non-weight bearing. So I just started walking like a week and a half ago, which was a very weird thing to relearn. And then in another probably 6 weeks, I should be able to run. And then in another month after that, I could get back to pivoting sports, right? Agility, stuff like that. But I think it'll probably be a much longer time for me because I was non-weight bearing for so long. I've lost so much muscle and strength on that one side of my body. And that's actually been the side of my body that I've consistently been injured on for the last year.
What side
So
is that?
it's my right side.
My right side's my problem side too. All my injuries are on my right side.
And that's my dominant side. So
I know it like
it's
doesn't make sense.
yeah. So I'm very reluctant to set a timeline for myself. You know, my physical therapist was like, it'll take about 10 weeks for the muscle strength to get back to what it was before. And I'm like, okay, that seems like a more appropriate time. So probably another 2.5 months before I start running, which is okay. I haven't the last year not running as much as I wanted to. I of course miss it every day, and I watch old videos of myself running. I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks so fun.
Right.
And I think about it nonstop, but I'm just like, okay, just keep your head down and focus on what you can do, because you know you don't want to just sit back and relax during this time. You want to get as strong as you can, and not get discouraged by the fact that you won't be doing that anytime soon. So it's been pretty tough, but
I have found, are you like this too, where I just can't even think about the running goals? Like I just have to put it out of my mind. And like you said, focus on what you can do, focus on the small wins in your recovery, the PT, they're like, oh, I'm learning how to walk today.
yes.
Like I'm not, when people are like, oh, are you signing up for races or what are you? I'm like, I like no time goals, no races until I am like out of the woods running healthily for several months, because it just, because then you, I don't know, you just feel pressure and rushed, and it just, it becomes less joyful and more like, okay, I got to get back there. I got to get back there. Like a sense of
Yes.
urgency that's not necessary and can be counterproductive.
Yes, totally. That's exactly how I feel. And I've loved all the stuff you've been posting because it's really like resonated with me so much because
The
there's
same, well, same with
no
you. I'm like, we have to talk.
but yeah, there's no I think I kept putting myself on this timeline after I had my son that was like I got to get back to doing what I was doing at a really quick pace. And that's what got me into trouble. So I don't want to it seems kind of silly for me to set goals when I can't even run right now. And then to not know what that looks like, even fitness wise, right? Because I'm swimming and I'm biking, but that doesn't really translate to running as much. And keeping up my aerobic fitness has been so hard while I've been injured. Nothing really does what running does for me. So every time I
Right.
come back to running, it just feels so hard. And so I'm expecting that. And just kind of trying to embrace how hard it's going to be versus I need to do this in the marathon. I need to run a marathon by X date and all of that stuff. So I agree, like taking, you know, I need to be running for maybe 7, 8, 9 months where I have no issues before I can even think about setting some goals.
Yeah,
Like,
I think that's totally the right mindset. I will say, first of all, swimming, like the fact that you're swimming, that's amazing. That's always something that I'm like, I should swim, but it just is such a hassle, like getting to a
it
pool,
is.
and it just takes so much longer and it's very not enjoyable.
No, I will say I taught myself because I was like, I if I'm going to keep getting injured, I'm going to need this. I'm going to need something else.
Yeah.
And uh, it is. It's like you go for a 30-minute swim and it's really like an hour and 15 minutes because you got to get all your stuff together. You got to make sure you shower afterwards. Otherwise, your skin and your hair, like there's just so much more
Yes.
maintenance involved with it. And it really makes you appreciate like running is so easy. Sometimes you just do your warm up at home, you walk out the door for most people, right? And you can
Yeah.
just start running. Um, and it's so much easier. And same with the bike, right? You have to either get to the gym or you have to own a bike. So it's a lot of cross training is there's some barriers there, so
Definitely.
especially
Yeah. And not to mention,
time barriers.
yes. And not to mention when you're in the pool, because I only did a tiny bit of swimming with this last injury. It's like 2 minutes of swimming. And I'm like, has it been an hour yet? This is, I mean, it's way worse than when you're on the treadmill and it feels like it's been forever.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very good for mental toughness too. But I will say, in my experience, and I know this is not your first injury rodeo, right? I mean, you've been dealing with this. Like I'm a little bit ahead of you now, and it is actually fun to feel yourself getting fitter. Like it happens. I mean, like you go through these periods where you're like, oh, like just a couple weeks ago, I was like, you know, the PT exercises aren't working. I'm not getting any better. I'm just wasting my time. And then the next week it was like complete 180, feeling so much better. Pain is all but gone. Running is starting to feel natural. I'm not obsessing over, oh my gosh, should I just re-injure it? What's, you know, it's like it is very gratifying to feel a progression. And I think that's what hooks people, you know, is when they stick with it for even just a few weeks, you can feel your body changing and it becoming like actually easy and pleasant. So that is the fun part. And it's like, I don't even need to dream about the goals right now because like I'm enjoying this process today, just running easy miles and not caring about how far or how fast. Oh, sorry, my son just came back. Hey, you okay? Okay.
Um, so I lost Eleanor, body and I saw, so I came back.
Okay, I'll be done in like 10 minutes. I'll go out with you, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. So I guess you have that to look forward to.
Yes, totally. And I mean, having now started over, I think 5 or 6 times in the last 3 years, it's always really nice to kind of start from nothing because you do see that progress so much more quickly. And that's what's exciting. You don't really need a race on the calendar to get you excited about running because every week you're seeing those like small incremental changes where I'm now able to go further. I'm now able to go longer. And it just feels so rewarding.
It does. What
Yeah.
has been hard for you this go around? Like, do you feel like you've kind of now you have a handle on how to mentally cope with being injured, or each
Well,
time are there new surprises?
yeah, the first couple injuries this year that took me out of running for a longer period of time was I broke my toe, which was fine, right? I could still do tons of cross training. I could do the elliptical, I could do the bike, all of that stuff was great, and I could still strength train. And then I had a stress fracture, which again was like 8 weeks off of running, but I
Gosh.
could still, yeah, but I could still strength train, I could still bike, I could do a lot of stuff. And this past one, it was great that he could repair my meniscus, but that was actually what led to the longer recovery and being non-weight bearing. And so the hardest part now is just being so out of balance and not doing anything for 6 weeks. I was doing, leg raises every day. And, that was the extent of what I could really do. So I think the first 3 weeks I was fine, but then once I got to that midway point, which somebody did tell me that like the halfway point is where it gets really hard, I was like begging my doctor to clear me to swim so I could get in the pool because I wouldn't really need to use my legs. I use a pool buoy, so I was like, I don't need to use my legs. Can you just clear me? And he's like, well, your stitches aren't completely like closed. It's so I don't want you getting in the pool. And I was kind of at a like I need to do something with my body that is more than a leg raise. Like this is doing nothing for me. And so that was something I was not prepared for. So I'm totally fine being injured if I can do other things, but not being able to do almost anything for, I think I started swimming at 5 weeks post surgery. That was so mentally hard. And also not being able to just do things for my family. Like my mom had to come and stay with us for a couple weeks to help get my son ready for school, just because I had to keep my leg elevated. Otherwise it would start to swell. And so there were just all of these kind of things that I basically was forced to lay down for a long period. And thinking about, postpartum was pretty hard. But at least I could walk around and do things for myself. I had to be driven everywhere because it was my driving leg. So I was never even alone for the most part for like 5 or 6 weeks. So not even having that time to just decompress by yourself was challenging, which is mostly what exercise is, I think,
Right.
for a lot of us. And that was very, very hard.
I think, I would say that like, it's an assault in a way on your identity, I think.
Yes.
Especially, when you make a living as a running coach too. And then it's hard. Like, I think I learned about myself this last time. And I know people talk about this all the time, and I've written about it, and I've done so many why I runs where people talk about how running helps with their anxiety and their depression. And I think I realized this last go around that like running, I didn't realize that I struggled with anxiety, but like I was just so much more anxious, and just my mood was just not as like level and calm as it typically is, just because I was missing, I had to be non-weight bearing like throughout the healing process, and just not having that outlet every day. It messed with me more than I realized that it does. Like I'm like, I need this for my mental health more than my physical health.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I think kind of what you said about the identity piece, it almost feels sometimes like I'm an imposter, like I don't know even how to run anymore. So how can I help other people run when, of course I have the knowledge to do that, but it just feels like, do I even know what they're experiencing right now? Because I haven't been able to run for so long. And so just kind of identifying with what your athletes are going through is just on a different level when you're not able to do the sport that they're doing.
Yeah. Like I would be programming their runs and thinking, I'm like, she has a 20-mile run. Like, how is she going to run 20 miles?
You're like, because you can't even fathom doing that at that point, right?
It's like,
oh my
yeah,
gosh.
you like adopt the non-runner mindset. Whereas when you're in it, you're like, I was just 20 miles easy time on feet.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. I can do that and be back to like family stuff. But yeah, but when you're not running, you're like, they're going to be running for like 2 or 3 hours. That's insane. Well, I really enjoyed chatting with you. There's so much more that I could talk with you about, but it seems like you're in a good headspace, and I'm glad that you're now able to get your movement medicine and focus on the little wins every day. I feel like that's been kind of like the key lesson for you and for a lot of injured runners, is to just really focus on what you can do, because when you think about what you can, or you're looking at what everybody else is doing, and that's where your vision is going to, like, that's very counterproductive.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Thanks for chatting with me. I've really, like I said, I've really loved following your injury recovery, and it's been a huge inspiration to me, and
Oh,
I just
thank
really
you.
appreciate you. So
I
yeah,
hope I
thanks
don't
for having me.
disappoint you. Oh my gosh, she's injured again. She's
Never.
Gonna have it. No, you can do this. This is going to be our rebuild year.
Yes, 2024. It's going to be our year for sure.
Well, I've enjoyed like your post and your watching your journey, and you had a post on there about community and how 2024 you're really going to focus on community, and I love that. And it was like you were in my head, because that's exactly what I was thinking too for this year.
That's awesome.
So, and here we are doing it.
Yes. And thank you for being part of the community. I really appreciate you.
Oh, before you go, I have to ask you one more question. So where does the name Team Sugar come from?
So when I first started running, of course, I have a very big sweet tooth. So I loved running and
eating candy.
Yes. And my boyfriend, who's now my husband at the time, was like, why don't you do something with sugar in the name? And I was like, okay, well, what about runs on sugar? And he was like, no, that one's already taken. And I was like, what about sugar runs? And he was like, yeah, let's do that. And so that's where it came from. And now we're Team Sugar Runs.
Sugar Runs. I love it so much. Because sugar is it's great fuel.
Yes, it
energy.
is.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you. I mean, I assume that's what it was, but I'm like, maybe there's more to more to it. But I love that.
No,
so
yeah.
You still love sugar.
Yes, I have a very big sweet tooth. Very big.
You and my son should get together. It's like every time I turn around, he's breaking into our candy stash.
Yeah.
This
That's me.
Okay. and look how well you're doing. So maybe he'll be okay.
Yeah.
Your teeth,
Yes. Yeah. No, he'll be fine.
He's going to be my runner. So maybe he's just preparing for his
totally.
Yeah.
For the fueling piece of it. He's got it down.
He's got it down. All right. Well, you enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you so much.
Thank you too. Yeah. Thanks, Whitney.